everyone. How are you today? Yes, really excited for today. Yeah, today is the last day for this Africa Challenge for the year 2023. And yeah, I can tell you, we've had lots of amazing speakers. And so today, to round up the series, we have two speakers that will be coming up to interact with us, share some opportunities and ideas with us, and I'm really excited about that. But for now, we will be meeting. Uh, yeah, how do I put this? So, if you've ever wondered, because a lot of the discourse during this week, this series for this year, has been about, there's been a lot of talk about education, changing the psychological perspective of people behavior. If you notice, it seemed to be like the theme for this conversation. And so, if you've ever wondered on how to build games that can bring about this impact or this kind of change or drive action, you've heard from speakers tell you the experience building these games. You've heard from a parent as well that built such game for his children to inspire them to be active, to build their resilience and character. You heard about the reacting pedagogy as well, which is something I'm really excited about. And today, I'm excited to tell you you're going to learn about how to build games for climate action, games that can drive action, games that can raise awareness. Yeah, a lot of things in respect to that. And apparently, there is a toolkit for game developers who are interested in endeavoring in this space, who are interested in making change or impact in this space. And to take us through that, welcome to the session, Arnold. Yep.
Thanks, Oscar.
Yes. Okay. So do you
Okay,
want to introduce yourself quickly? Just a
I'll,
brief one.
he'll come around. Can just launch the. Let's just
Super.
launch the show.
Okay then. So I'll be in the backstage and yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so hi everyone. It's truly an honor to speak with you today at Africa Comicade. But before we start, I'd like to dedicate this session to our late team leader, Olivier Doba, who passed away 2 days ago, and without whom this work would not have been possible. I'm sure he would have loved to know that his lifelong mission to inspire positive change through video games is still running, even now he's gone. So if I'm being a bit emotional during this talk, thank you for bearing with me. This session was initially presented at the Game Developer Conference last March for a mostly North American and European audience. And it was quite fantastic to finally be able to talk about climate change to an audience of game designers in the main track, because a year ago, this would have been considered as advocacy. But since then, we've seen the mega fires. We've suffered from the heat wave last summer. Some of us struggled to find fresh water to drink for the first time in our lives. And some of us had way too much water and lost their home because of it. So we looked it up, and now we know that the only way to keep this planet habitable for us is to completely transform our ways of life from this to this. And the clock is ticking. People around us say it's impossible, that we are doomed because there's just no way humanity can shift its course in such a short amount of time, but not you. Because you, my friend, you have superpower, don't you? You're a game maker. You can talk to 3 billion players around the planet who already trust what you have to say. You can teach complex problems in fun and engaging way that no school can ever match. And you get to define what being cool means, and for multiple generations at once. And I'm one of you. I've been making games for 17 years all around the world with wonderful people, growing as a successful art director, yet wondering if I was being part of the problem, and came to the conclusion that we can be part of the solution instead. So I helped founding the IGDA Climate Special Interest Group, an international grassroots community of game devs, academics, and climate scientists passionate about exploring the untapped power of video game to tackle the climate crisis. And then I had the chance to join Ubisoft Positive Play, a transversal team from our international headquarters, tasked to demonstrate and amplify the positive impact games can have on our players and on the planet. Together, we're now developing creative tools to support game devs in their quest for pro-environmental impact, such as during the annual Green Game Jam organized by the Playing for the Planet Alliance, to which 20 Ubisoft games participated so far. So I've been doing this for a bit, learning through trial and errors, and today I'm proud to present you all our findings in this field guide. Does it look a bit like a work in progress to you? Well, it is because it is. You see, I wish I could come to you claiming, this is how we solve the climate crisis, you can do it too. But it hasn't happened yet, right? There's no perfect science about how to solve a problem of such scale. So we're all pioneers here, learning together how to make a difference. What I do know is that we're in a climate emergency and we need all hands on deck now. So if you're on board, I'm going to share with you our maps, methods, and discoveries fresh off the press, and hope we can give you a head start so you don't lose precious years. You ready? So first, let's start by clarifying what is a climate game? Is it a game that can fix climate? What does it even mean? Climate change is much more complex than just managing our greenhouse gas emissions. The causes are deeply rooted in everything that makes our modern civilization, and its consequences are affecting everything and everyone on the planet. And we can't fix complex problems with one simple solution. What we need is a systemic change, a global transformation. So to make sense of this, the United Nations have put together a plan with 17 sustainable development goals, which would allow to restore balance on the planet. But can a video game solve all of this? Tricky, right? Some developers had the courage to make games that tackle this theme head-on, giving players a chance to explore all these interconnected problems to understand how to beat climate change. And I do encourage everyone to play these games, but let's be realistic. They mostly appeal to people who are already dedicated to this cause. If we want our 3 billion players to play a climate game, we will need to talk to them where they are right now. So what if every game could be a climate game? Let's explore what every game developer can do in your studio and on the game you're making right now. And let's address the elephant in the room first. What we all need to do first is reducing our environmental impact. Otherwise, we're still being part of the problem. The carbon footprint of digital industries is way too high and keep growing, so we must start flattening the curve. At Ubisoft, decarbonation is part of our Play Green initiative. This is a huge challenge that will take time to fully address, but our plan has been validated by the Science Based Targets initiative, which proves it can be done. There's so much to say about this. So if you're interested, you can find all the information about Ubisoft decarbonation plan on our website. We update it every year, and we're trying to be as transparent as possible. One surprising fact I'd like to share with you, though, is that most of our emissions are downstream effects, such as the energy our players use while playing. We only have direct control over 5 to 10% of our global emission, no more. How can we expect a game studio to make a positive impact on climate if we have no direct control over 95% of the problem? Maybe by doing what we do best, making games. Games are a growing part of today's culture, and therefore it can have a positive impact on climate via our players, the way Final Fantasy VII inspired a generation of eco-activists back in 1997. So let's scrap our initial definition. A game can't fix climate, but our teams and our players can. So a climate game would be a game with a sustainable environmental footprint that nudge players to act for climate. Okay, but how do they do this? Well, there are two approaches. First, we can either partner up with NGOs and inspire players to spend some money to fund the work of planet keepers who will plant trees, protect wildlife, or build renewable energy infrastructure on their behalf. The best part is it's very easy to track progress this way. Last year, Ubisoft player planted more than 1 million trees with our partner Ecology, thanks to games participating to Playing for the Planet's Green Game Jam. The downside is that some overseas projects sometimes appear to be less beneficial for the planet as initially thought, and that players who feel satisfied to have contributed for a good cause must be less inclined to reconsider the other life habits. So the other approach is to inspire players to tackle real-world action on their own. The way Riders Republic invited players to restore a section of their open world and experience the difference. Shifting the attitude and behavior of millions of players may look like a tricky task with very hard to measure outcome, but it's the only way to ensure long-lasting effect on our world, even after players are done playing our games. So both of those approaches are valid, but like Naomi Klein said, to change everything, we need everyone. So we can't just let our player play games at home while the world burns, can we? Sooner or later, they'll have to act on their own, and it would be much easier for them if games have prepared them to do so in the first place. So it begs the question, what action should we inspire player to take? What do we want our player to do in the real world after playing our games? And it's such a tough question for us game developers because even the most passionate climate activists don't speak with the same voice. Some claim that we should all change individually, do our part, learn to live with less, renew our connection with nature, and abandon a broken system. In a world, learn to live sustainably. Others say that we should rely on our strong institution, government, and corporation to collectively transform our planet-crushing system into something that could sustain itself for centuries. In short, transforming the system. Some even say that we should all be in the streets right now, holding our ground against those who destroy our planet for profit with love and rage. In short, that we should resist against our planet destruction. So who should we trust? There are so many good people out there trying to convince other good people that their ways would be more efficient than the others. And the fear of advocating for the wrong solution can be paralyzing. So to schematize, those three action paths could be mapped that way, seemingly going in different direction. But it's actually closer to an ecosystem as each path benefits the other two. Living sustainably help those trying to transform the system by proving that there's a demand for that and act as a point of reference for those resisting against the planet destruction. By transforming the system, we create new sustainable alternatives for those who wish to live sustainably, and we set new benchmark for future regulation that allows the resistance to take legal action against polluters. And when we resist against the planet destruction, we send a strong signal to government and corporations that inactions won't be tolerated, helping all employees working hard to transform the system from within, as well as protecting the condition of life of those willing to live sustainably. So you see, everything is connected. We can safely inspire action in all those three axes, knowing that their outcome will meet up at some point. But again, that's a lot to ask for. Can a game really nudge player into doing all of this? One game? No. But we collectively released more than 10,000 games last year on Steam alone. So the question should be, how can my game contribute? What is my game uniquely suited to achieve that no other game can? You know how we game developers always go through great lengths to identify what's our game USPs, their unique selling points. Well, I believe we should also strive to identify what's our game UIPs, their unique impact potential. And we can try to triangulate it by looking at the game theme, what it talks about, the context of its world and characters, its gameplay, what do we ask player to do in game, and of course, its audience, who will play the game and what is the context of their lives. Let's start with the theme, because now is a good time to look back at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and see where the theme of our game land. Here are a few examples from last year's Green Game Jam. Games with very specific themes are perfect to focus on specific issues like life below water in Hungry Shark. Other games like broader open world can expose players to a whole range of concepts like Riders Republic with their various activities. And usually the more systemic a game is, the more themes it can potentially address. City builders like Anno are perfect to let players experience how all these different themes are interconnected in our civilization. So I'm sure you're looking at this and already thinking, oh yes, there is this thing in my game. I can probably do something about that. Hold this out for now. And let's look at our gameplay. What does our game task player to do? What are we encouraging and what are we punishing? And let's look at where it lands on our climate action map. Even though all game could potentially inspire player to act along any axis, it's easy to notice that some games genre have a natural potential to nudge player in specific directions. Games about real-life activities, low-carbon sport, relationship with animal or the natural world can inspire players' sustainable way to live. Games featuring systemic civilizations are perfect to inspire society transformation. Even games about high carbon activities like car racing can aim at setting examples the way Trackmania does by showcasing an electric car rather than a petrol one. Finally, actions, combat, shooting games can lead the resistance against our planet destruction. We just need to clarify what we are fighting for and what we are fighting against. So where does your game task player to do? You must already have a good idea of where your game could be on this map, right? Great. So the last crucial element to determine the unique impact potential of our game is its audience. So if you're a game professional, you already have a good idea of their demographic, their player segments, and maybe some of their passion. But what you don't know yet is where they stand on their personal pro-environmental journey. Are they still ignoring the problem by accident or by choice? Are they already aware of the crisis but aren't acting yet for some reason? Or are they already actively involved into making the world more sustainable? Depending on your genre and theme, the proportion of each segment among your audience will vary, but our goal will always be the same: how to move them from here to there and from there to there. And to do so, we need to understand the barriers that preventing them from doing so in the first place, whether they're just not familiar with the problem or have some existing misconceptions. If it doesn't feel relevant to them right now or too complex to get into, or even simply because the climate crisis is just too terrifying to even want to think about it during their leisure time, then people who are already aware of the problem may not be active yet because they feel it doesn't align with their current needs, or they may just not know what they can do. They can also feel held back by social norms or lack the resource they think they need to take action. And all these barriers can be addressed by different features. Like in Rocksmith plus Stonewood update, the team tried to address both audience by including some nature-themed visual effects, track list, and cosmetics to spark player interest and emotional connection with the natural world, as well as optional videos about the importance of choosing a sustainably sourced guitar and how to take care of it to make it last longer, which should be considered as a normal behavior of any guitar player. So we should now have a pretty good idea of what is our game's unique impact potential at the intersection of our game theme, our intended in-game attitude and challenge required by gameplay, and the context of our target audience. Did you find yours? Nobody know your game better than you do. Okay, so at this stage, we know we can reduce our own emission. We know that every individual and collective action can have a positive impact on the world. We know that we know what the unique impact potential of our game is to activate our audience to take action. But how do we know for sure if our game will really contribute to pushing our players to take action? Basically, how do we know it will work? Studios participating to the Green Game Jam have been using all kinds of tools to measure how effective their cultural impact is, like in-game metrics collection or pre and post gameplay survey, and they all show very promising results. However, these metrics only show players' pro-environmental intention, not their actual behavior after they're done playing, and we are all aware that there can be a gap between intention and action. And sadly, there's no way for us to measure player behavior when it happened outside of the game. So what if we could predict them? In the Environmental Game Design Playbook, co-authored by members of the IGDA Climate Special Interest Group, we compiled academic research to identify what could be key predictors of pro-environmental behaviors. And here's what we found. We can predict players are very highly likely to adopt a pro-environmental behavior when they have the right knowledge, because you can't act if you don't know what to do. It's not only about raising awareness about a problem, but also understand why it happens and how to take direct action. Then they need the right attitude, because you won't act if you don't care. The player's attitude refers to how they define themselves and feel about their relationship with the natural world. Each experience we take makes us re-examine our attitude as we learn through emotional interaction, exposure to social concept or norm, and practice positive behavior. The third predictor is a perception of self-efficacy, because you won't act if you don't think it matters. Players can build it by witnessing the effect of their in-game action on the virtual world so they feel real and valuable, starting with small action and gradually tackling bigger and more complex ones, and experience what the collective power of community action can achieve. And finally, they need hope that all of this is worth doing. Hope is critical both for taking the first step and to keep going in the long run. It can be built by experiencing and practicing trust in other players, in their agility to set their own goals, and their ability to experience success. So now this may look like a lot, and let's admit it, it would be extremely hard to come up with a game that cover all of them. But remember, our players aren't blank slates. So even focusing on a single predictor would help moving the needle. And with a multitude of games pushing all in the same direction, collectively, we will make change happen. So which one do you think will be the easiest to tackle with your game? So we're getting somewhere. But this still doesn't tell us how to actually make this game, which leads to our last quest today. What creative tools do we have as game developers to achieve this? Just like climate, games are rich and complex systems. They include so many different parameters weaved together into an experience. So to fully understand what our levers of actions are, let's deconstruct what makes those systems. The first thing we see are the aesthetics, the visual, the sound, more generally everything that can be perceived with our senses while playing. Then we have the narrative, the story, the setting, the script, in a world, the meaning of everything we see. Then the gameplay, which include the game mechanics and more generally all the interactive bits. And finally, the technology, the way the game is coded and how it runs, from the game engine to the device it plays on. Each of those four pillars are equally important in a game. They're usually handled by different people with different skill sets, but they can all contribute to addressing environmental issues in their own unique way. So far, we regrouped them into 8 tools. The first and most obvious one is the message of the game. What does the game tell us about the world and about ourselves? We can use it to deliver awareness knowledge, of course, like in Hungry Shark, but also to help shaping players' attitude by presenting characters reacting to specific situations, like in Watch Dogs. Our second tools, our artists hold the power to create emotional impact. Like Tony Cade said, the role of the artist is to make revolution irresistible. So by leveraging aesthetic codes, we can trigger affective learning to either inspire a sense of connection with nature and with people, like in Rayman Origin, or a sense of fear for dangers we haven't experienced yet, like the wildfires in Raiders Republic. Number 3, visualization and representation are achieved by combining narratives and aesthetic to show players what might be difficult to imagine on their own. While it wasn't specifically about climate change, the world builders of Tom Clancy's The Division exposed the fragility of our society by representing dramatic vision of what the world would become if we let it collapse, but also hopeful vision of how acting together can lead to a self-sustainable and happy life. When narratives and gameplay are aligned, they can lay some explicit or implicit calls to action to players to equip them with relevant action knowledge and build their perception of self-efficacy. The way Rocksmith Plus invited players to repair and maintain their equipment, or Brawlhalla leveraged their community to take part in a massive tree planting event. On gameplay side, we've seen that behavioral learning can induce attitude shift. Repeating action in a game can become habits, And when the context and personal value are aligned, habits acquired in game can transfer into real life. Could collecting garbage from the ocean in Hungry Shark inspire players to clean up their beaches next summer? Could taking part into a virtual climate march in Riders Republic inspire a scaffolding effect leading players to join one in the real world? The future will tell. Games have become so good at simulating the real world and all its complex interaction that they can allow players to experiment with each component and draw their own conclusion. The way Anno 1800 helped developing a systematic knowledge of complex problems like impact on ecosystems. It makes it possible to understand long-term consequences of our action on a much shorter time frame and experimenting a sense of agency without the stress of making life-threatening mistakes. When it comes to engineering, optimization can also be used to give players agency over their own electric consumption and express their care for the environment in the most practical way, such as with the Eco mode we're pioneering with Microsoft on Xbox that automatically alters the resolution and frame rate to save power. Some team also came up with very creative solution to reduce the power consumption of their games, such as giving player the opportunity to clear up their inventory space in exchange for exclusive reward in the game Horse, allowing us to reduce our server usage. Finally, and as much as it pains me to admit it as an art director, graphics are responsible for most of the game computation power and disk size. But there's a lot we can do to practice graphics sufficiency without damaging the experience. Picking a lean art direction in Brawlhalla allowed them to release on literally every platform, allowing players to play on devices they already own rather than buying a new one. And even photorealistic AAA games like Far Cry 6 can do their part, such as making their high-resolution texture pack optional during the initial download, saving nearly 30 gigabytes of data for players who don't need them. So here are the 8 tools we identified for game makers to trigger impact. There are probably much more. All the examples I've mentioned here are just a fraction of what you can leverage to address environmental issues, but it shows how everyone in your team has strong card to play within their area of expertise. You already know which one you're going to use first. So let's wrap it up with a quick recap. So when you will be back to your studio on Monday and your team will ask, so what did you learn? Anything we can do with our games to help with the climate crisis? You can tell them, yes, I have a plan. First, let's make sure we stop being part of the problem by reducing our carbon emission. We'll calculate our current footprint, we'll set an ambitious yearly reduction target, get it validated by a trusted group to ensure it's realistic, and we're going to start this right now because it will likely take time. In the meantime, we'll keep making the games we know and love, but we're going to identify their unique impact potential by checking what SDG could our story, world, or character explore, what axes of action can our gameplay promote, and where our audience is likely to be in their journey to sustainability, and what their barriers could be. Once we know this, we need to equip our players to maximize the chance of positive behaviors. We'll ensure they have the necessary knowledge to act, an attitude that inspires action, perceive themselves to be capable of making a difference, and believe that their action can result in a worthwhile outcome so that they're highly likely to act in a pro-environmental manner. And to achieve this, we'll need to look into what's in our game. Leverage a unique advantage that aesthetic, narratives, gameplay, and technology can provide, and will empower every member of our great team to contribute with their own expertise. And when the content of our game equip and motivate our players to take action on their own to make the world a better place, all without adding fuel to the fire, it means we've given the world a game that's part of the solution to the climate crisis. Because in the end of the day, what is a climate game really? If not a game that's still relevant to develop, to buy, and to play in the age of the climate crisis. Thank you. This is where we are. I hope you now feel inspired, empowered, and hopeful. To get you started, here are a few resources you can grab to help you in this quest while I answer your question. By the way, the IGDA Climate SIG can use more people from the Global South. We need your expertise and your perspective to help us understand the problem more globally. So please, if you feel like meeting new people around the world who want to develop climate games, please join the IGDA Climate SIG. That's all for me.
I'm muted. Yeah, of course I'm muted. Yeah, that was really good. That was very good. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, I am a member of the IGDA Climate SIG. Very fun stuff ongoing there. We also got to speak at the Green Game Summit in 2021, where we joined Microsoft. I think that was Trista Patterson. She was she worked with Playing for Planet, and they came up with the green coding methodology. That's where you spoke on optimization, optimizing your code to use less power and all. So yeah, if everyone wants to, please scan what you see on the screen so that you can join that Discord server. And there are lots of activities that go on there that you can be a part of. Thanks so much for this presentation, Arnold. Really, really
It's been a pleasure.
excited. Yeah. And please, if you are listening, I see some people are online. Please feel free to drop your comments, ask questions. We really want that. Arnold is here to speak with you. Personally, I do know across Africa there are two organizations who have so far worked in terms of games for climate change. That's K4 Games in Senegal. That's a game studio in Senegal, and they built something where you clean the beach. Very interesting. And the highest score, the player with the highest score gets a tree planted in their name. Yeah, that's really, really cool. And just recently at the Xbox Game Camp, I came across the Green Quest game. It's a game built by a lady. She's a game producer. She's interested in sustainability. Her name is Grace James, and she's building a game that's going to teach youth, teenagers about climate change and drive them to take climate action. So I don't know if she's listening. She could drop a comment or so as I shared this session with her. But yeah, we have people looking into that space, and we look forward to engaging you more in more interactive sessions, one-on-one, where they can interact. Yeah.
I'll be happy to help whenever I can.
Super. So please, if you're listening, drop your questions, drop your comments. We'd love to interact with you. Arnold is here to take them. Let's address them. But I have one for you, Arnold. From your interactions with the game developers globally, what is that one thing that stood out for you as a problem when it comes to building games for climate change? What is that one problem a lot of game developers were speaking of?
I'd say there are two main problems. The first one is that a lot of people want to act for climate, but just don't know what to do, how they can affect the problem with their games. They believe some other people are probably much more better suited to help and to tackle those problems. But they don't realize that with their games they can reach so many people that even the smallest change they can achieve in their game can be multiplied by millions of people and triggering really have a strong outputs. And I think another assumption a lot of game developers have, especially the older game developers, is the assumption that players don't care about the environment. They don't want to hear about climate change, about the environment, about how to build a better world. But this is not what research data and surveys tell us. There have been a lot of surveys lately, a lot of research data, mostly run by the UN's Playing for the Planet, who end up with numbers where we realize that the biggest majority of players want to have more environmental themes, to have more relevant theme in their games, themes that will be relevant in their lives. And that players, especially the youngest one from Generation Z and Generation Alpha, are really ready to vote with their wallets about what kind of futures they want, what kind of companies they want to support. And so yeah, the players are an amazing crowd. They are some of the most progressive crowd we can see. Some of the most progressive consumers, because they are always at the forefront of innovation. They are used to communicate a lot online, to meet with a lot of people in games, and yeah, what we realize today that players are quite ahead in environmental and climate awareness compared to other type of fraud. So this is maybe the hardest assumption that we need to deconstruct.
And that's interesting to know. That's very, very interesting to know. Yeah, I remember our work with Trista Patterson, where we had a small user group. If you're open to have that, we can also organize that as well. We had a small user group with some African game developers to understand their own challenges. And that was part of what was added to the report that was created on green coding. So, because on this end, we are still trying to, it's an emerging industry. The games industry on this end is emerging. And a lot of people are concerned about how to make revenue. And a lot of the assumptions we have here is better quality graphics. You get high-end graphics, fast running code, of course, and people are on that move. There's that drive to see how we can build games that can make money for us. And for a bulk of people, sustainability is not yet at the fore in terms of making social change. It's more about making revenue, but we can definitely have more sessions like this working together to change that mindset on the developer side. And this is on the developer side. And then the studios that are already working in this area would definitely love to have one-to-one interactions with you. Yeah, please, if you have questions, ask them. I'm not seeing any questions online, but if you have them, I can see people online watching us, but I can't see the questions. So do you have comments, questions? Please share them. Else, we won't take any questions. Yeah. Yeah. But this is really interesting. So I know there's always a green game jam. Is it a climate game jam? So did one happen this year, and is there another one coming up anytime soon?
So there are a lot of climate-related game jams. The one I'm mentioning is one from Playing for the Planet. This one is a bit particular because it's only open to Playing for the Planet's member studios, and it's only the goal is to make a green an activation on a live game. The reason is because we know exactly how many players we're going to reach. If your current game, if you have a live game with an audience of 20 million players, we know that when you will release this activation, 20 million players will see it, and then we can measure what works, what doesn't work. It's much more, it's much easier like this to get some data about what works, what really makes a difference, and to adapt our strategy rather than building a small game prototype from scratch and just to hope it could bloom into a magnificent game in a few years' time. So yeah, there will be a new iteration of the game jam, most probably.
Okay.
I don't have much information about this yet.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But yeah, considering the success we've had in the last 3 iterations, I'm pretty confident there must be something brewing.
Okay then. Okay, super. So I guess in the absence of questions, we can call the session. We can bring it to a close. But this has really been wonderful. It has been an amazing time with you, learning more about your work. And so from the QR code on the screen, we can get access to the playbook, right?
Yeah.
Okay, super. And to join the Climate 6 server as well, would that lead us there?
I think this QR code brings you to our community website, where you can both download the environmental game design playbook, which can be really useful for your work if you're trying to develop an environmentally friendly game, and there is a direct link to the Discord on this website. So
Okay.
it's completely
Okay.
it's completely open, it's free, and and like you say, everyone is nice.
Yeah, everyone is.
Mm,
Okay then. Thanks so
mm.
much, Arnold. Thank you for this presentation. Do have a lovely day. We'll be in touch, definitely.
Thank you. I'd love to.
Okay then.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Yeah, that was Arnold from Ubisoft, who works in the area of building games for change, climate change games. And he took us through that game toolkit, that developer guide to help every game developer out there who is interested in building games that can drive climate action. I do hope you enjoyed that. And if you have questions, you saw the links he brought up on screen. Do join that. I am a member of the Climate Seek, and there are lots of activities. And of course, they want to hear from the Global South. They want to hear from us Africans. And this is one way we can also join the global games industry in defining what the future of the games industry would look like. This is one way we can join in the area of change, in the area of impact. And if you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to Arnold. You can connect with him online, or you can reach out to us at Africa Communicate. We're glad to guide you, connect you with any of the stakeholders who have spoken so far that you want to be in touch with. And we would also love your comments. Please don't be shy. Send us your comments, send us your feedback, send in your questions. Let's address that. I'll join you. I'll see you in the next session. Yes, that will be happening in about 15 minutes. So let's go prep for that. Thank you and have a lovely evening. We're still going to meet, right? So yeah, see you soon. Bye.